Hi, my name is Rick Penner, and I'm on the staff here at Reading Christian Fellowship. And we're here to have a conversation with John Kraft, our lead pastor.
Yep.
And John, you have been through a pretty painful experience the last little while, and you mentioned that Sunday morning of your mother passing. And of course, we grieve with you, and we remember you in our prayers. And
Well, thank you.
we know you're going to head out there now really soon. One thing I was wondering, it just fits right in with what you were actually preaching. It's kind of interesting how that fit together, I thought. You talked about that we have a hope in Jesus. So if you were the parishioner at RCF and you've just gone through the loss of your mother, as you have, and someone would say, "Oh, John, isn't it great that we have a hope in Jesus?" What would that mean to you? Would that be sufficient? Would you understand what's behind that, or would you have to have that explained a little bit first?
No, you'd have to have it explained a little bit, but even beyond that, Rick, one thing that I'm kind of afraid of is that in the Christian realm, we kind of have this syrupy approach to spirituality and to hope. And that we just want to pretend that everything is rainbows and unicorns and everything's happy and that it's all right, she's in heaven, and we end up minimizing the pain and the hurt that's there. We just have to realize that when someone that we love passes away, there is real pain and there is real hurt. And I'm convinced it's because we weren't designed for death. When God created us, we weren't designed to die. We were designed to live forever in the Garden of Eden with Him. And so death is outside the scope of what we should be experiencing. And so whenever it happens, it causes pain and grief for us. And so first of all, in the midst of hope, we need to be able to say, but it's okay to grieve. That's why on Sundays we talked about it. I pointed out that I've always been thankful that Paul, as he writes to the Thessalonians, doesn't just stop and say, we do not grieve. But he says, we don't grieve as those who have no hope.
Big
And
difference.
I've always taken that to mean that we do grieve. But our grief looks different because we do have hope.
Sure.
So it's not a hopeless grief where we think that there's nothing left, we have nothing left to live for, that there is nothing but pain in that experience. There is pain and there is hurt, and I think you see that even in John as he's on the Isle of Patmos. But at the end of the day, we do have hope. And we have hope, I think, in two ways. Hope for, in my case, Mom, because Mom was a believer and loved Jesus, loved God, prayed to receive Christ at First Baptist Church in Tucson. And so we're convinced that since to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord, that when she breathed her last here on earth, she was immediately in the presence of Jesus. Mm-hmm. And so that should give us hope, because we recognize that the pain and the sickness that she struggled with for years and years is no more for her. Sure. I like to say it's not even a distant memory for her. That's just, it's gone. Yeah. But then we also have hope for us, because as we looking forward in life, I know that one day there will be a reunion, and we will be gathered together at the throne. That someday I'll slip from this life into the next. If Jesus waits and He doesn't come back anytime soon.
Even as young as you are.
Even as young as I am. I know, it's hard to imagine that, at 17 years of age, I'm already thinking about this.
Well, just don't forget, we have hope.
but I have hope that the time that I spent interacting with Mom on the night before she passed away was not the last interaction that I'm going to have with her. And so that's where our hope comes from. Not because we can just excuse away or ignore sorrow, but because we can have hope in the midst of sorrow.
And we don't mean to trivialize this either when we make light of your age. But what I'm hearing you say is you don't want to live in sort of like, use the word unicorn, which is probably as good a way to put it as any, but to be realistic, but not not to be in despair.
Yeah, I just know so many Christians who they almost act like Christianity and real life don't go together.
Yeah.
You know, and that if you're having real life, then you're not a real Christian. And that's just not
No.
the case. You know, our Christianity should be lived out in the midst of the real life that we go through. And sometimes real life is great and exciting and it's happy. And sometimes it kind of stinks and it's hard to go through. But no matter what we're going through, we have hope in Jesus.
Absolutely.